All right. I see something live.
I think we're red. That's live. There we
Yeah,
go.
you're good to go.
So I guess I'm kind of hosting this. So Joe Farewell's with me. Anybody watching us in Insta's getting Joe on the computer screen. Joe is the head trainer at Farewell Firearms Training. I think that's their exact title, right? Well,
Yeah. Along with many, many other titles, but yes, that one also fits.
so you're getting Joe's big smile, even though he's been training all day and has informed me he hasn't eaten since breakfast. So he's got a seltzer water or something, and we're gonna go hard for 30 minutes and talk about training. Probably my favorite thing about Joe is that during all this nonsense, I don't know that he really slowed down or skipped a beat. Joe's
No.
and neither did we, right? So I don't know that I've said this publicly, but Atlas Gunworks didn't miss a day because of COVID. We went full tilt. Before our state shut down a couple of days before we got deemed essential. But, like, listen, we're here every day making guns. We're going to stay here every day making guns, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So anyway, I love that about Joe. So let's talk about training. Apparently people are not afraid to train in Florida, so that's good. Or
No.
wherever you are. I don't know if it's Florida.
Not too much. Yeah, I'm in Florida. We got a nice Florida thunderstorm rolling up behind me right now, so we'll see how this goes. But the training down here has been kind of hit and miss. Initially, when the whole COVID thing started popping off, I had to cancel or postpone a couple of classes. I was supposed to be up there in New Hampshire in April and out in Texas in April, and I had to push those back because of flight restrictions and all kinds of craziness. But we kept on training down here, and the big issue right now, of course, everyone knows is ammo. So everyone's trying to scramble to get ammo, and I know Supervel's been doing their Syndrome primers in, which is pretty cool. If you've got primers. Now the issue is nobody's got primers either.
So let's take 10 seconds and just talk about that. So I've been through this cycle 4 or 5 times now. If you're not sitting on whatever it doesn't matter what the number is. It's 2 years of training material. So if you're a 25,000 round a year guy, you better have 50,000 primers. Primers are being the hardest. I think powder is the second hardest, and then bullets are a little flux there. So I'd say you need, if you're serious, have 1 year of bullets, 2 years of powder, 2 years of primer, and then the brass doesn't really ever seem to be a big deal. But
that's a really good standard to have. I wish I had 2 years of powder and primers. That is not the case for me at this point in time. It's been kind of a crazy journey for me getting into this world from the law enforcement side, doing that full time. I've now been doing this for almost 2 years full time, the teaching side. So, and that's been a whole process in itself, learning how to run a business, and especially with this past 2020 has been a madhouse. But last year was a lot of learning for me, and now I'm kind of honing things in. So eventually, yes, in the near future, I'll have 2 years stocked up, but not at this point.
Well, I sent Supervel a good year's worth. I sent him 55,000 primers, and the ammo landed today. So nothing cooler than using a forklift to take your ammo off the truck. And
I love that. So then that's the other thing is I got a pallet from G9 back at the end of May, and it's gone. I ordered that so that I could have ammo here on hand for students to buy, so they would at least still train. Because of course I need a stream of students to be able to keep things happening. But it is what it is. Like you said, we've been through this before. It's not the first time. It won't be the last, I'm sure. And so you got to keep your preparedness up, and your powder keg's full. So it is what it is.
So we're definitely going to take questions. Whoever's firing questions up, we'll take them as we go. But here's the thing that I see a lot, and it bothers me. So I'm going to ask you what you think maybe the solution might be. But I shoot a little bit of everything, but primarily for a long time it was USPSA. Through the 2000s was the big sport, and you see all these guys that do level 1 classes, and they're flying all over the country, showing up to your club teaching level 1s. Yep. And then there's never enough momentum at the club to get the same guy to come do his level 2, right? So there's the same spreading of the same basic knowledge. And what seemed to happen is the classes got a little more broad, a little more, like more information started coming out. I'll probably piss some people off when I say this, but back 15, 20 years ago, I think a lot of the pros that were doing that were keeping a lot of the trade secrets.
Yep.
And a few guys, I think Stoger might have been the guy who started letting the cats out of the bag or whatever. But so I think the training's gotten better. I've done classes with most of those folks, and but nobody ever has time for the level 2. Like nobody seems to do all the stuff to get that level 2. So
right.
What's the best way for somebody to be able to get that next thing? Like go get the basics and then what?
So I noticed the same trend in 3-gun, right? Because 3-gun is my primary sport. Of course, I've done plenty of USPSA as well, but 3-gun is where my biggest niche is. And same issue, right? Everyone's doing like an intro to 3-gun, like how do you get into the sport? And nobody's helping the people that are in the middle of the pack that want to get better, you know? And that's, to me, like they have the fundamentals down, they know what to do, but how do you get better? How do you break through that plateau? So that was something that when I started teaching, I started like noticing that was a major trend. And so I started filling that hole. There's only a couple people who do 3-gun classes because it is such a small niche. And there's only 1 or 2 other people who do any sort of a level 2 3-gun class. Keith Garcia, he's been teaching for years, but he's also doesn't teach much anymore. Besides that, there's not very many people out there that even would approach that. So
do you do it in a class setting or do you do one-on-one? What's the best? And then where it used to fall apart for the USPSA kind of thing was you didn't have enough people, right? You
right.
couldn't get 10 for the level 1. Everybody could do that, and then the level 2, it's like 4 or 5.
Right.
So how do you handle just the sheer numbers of the economics?
The sheer numbers is tough. You know, that is the hardest part to try to get people in. Now, I think that people are starting to acknowledge that, hey, classes are a good thing. First of all, like you can get a lot of information out of a class, not just a level 1 class, but if you start taking more, you need a lot. People are starting to me at least, they're opening their eyes to other avenues of training. So I've got an e-learning dry fire series coming out here very, very shortly. I've been working with Mark on a lot. It hasn't been launched yet. It hasn't even been announced yet. This is kind of the first time I've announced it publicly. I kind of dripped some teasers out there here and there, but some really cool stuff coming there. And people are starting to acknowledge the fact that there are other avenues to train other than just you go out to the range and you shoot and then you go out and dry fire and that's what you do. Like there's ways to leverage other people's knowledge to get you better and cut your learning curve down from, hey, it took me 5 years to become a GM. Now it can take you 3 or 2 if you have the right things. Instead of just screwing things up and figuring out as you go, learn from other people's screw ups, right? That's the cheapest way to go about it. So as far as getting numbers into a class, for me, social media is huge. Obviously, I communicate with a lot of people on here, and I'm able to put that out there. But I think people are there's a desire to grow, by and large. Some areas just don't have the numbers. When I look at an area that I'm thinking about going and doing a class, I'm not going to go do a class in Nebraska. Well, actually, Nebraska's not bad. I would go there because they got a great range there. But South Dakota, like there's not many 3-gunners or USPSA shooters in South Dakota, and maybe I'll piss off the 2 of you that are on the live stream. And if that's the case, I'm sorry. But if you can get more friends, I'll come up there and teach a class. But like I've got a guy that wants me to come to the Mojave and teach a class. It's like, do you have people? No. Okay, then sorry, I can't pull it off.
Right.
So
yeah.
If you have
actually got a question on that. Gun Girl Jen, who's I think following you as well, Joe, is wondering when you're coming to Ohio specifically.
Actually, Ohio, I would love to come up there. We've actually talked about putting a couple of different classes up there. Josh Tarrant's up there. Paul with Black Iron Gunner, he's up there. So I got a bunch of friends up there who want me to come to Ohio. I'd love to come up there at some point. And if anybody on the live stream wants me to come and teach a 3-gun or a pistol or 2-gun class, let me know. Like shoot me a DM. I'm happy to set stuff up. September, October, November is pretty booked right now, but we got some cool stuff happening in December. December is great in Florida, FYI. So I try to keep classes local in the winter, and I travel during the summer because it sucks right now. It is so
talk
hot.
to us about that. Like you have a range. What part of Florida is it? Does that work well for people to come down there and do a class there?
Yep. So I'm on my range. I got a nice berm. I got about a 150 yard shot that we can get out to, and we work some rifle stuff out here. I can do pretty much whatever I want to. I'm about an hour from Orlando and an hour and a half from Tampa. So we're kind of right in that hot spot. If you want to come down during the winter time and take your family to Disney one day and then come out and train, that's always an option. I've had people come down here for that. And the nice thing about my range is I'm really like 2 miles away. We have hotels and food and everything. So it's pretty convenient.
That, right?
Most ranges that I go to, it's like you got an hour before you find a McDonald's.
Right.
But
awesome.
no, it's not a bad spot down here, and we get to do a lot with what I've got. So I'm always working on improving stuff out here. We're actually fixing to build a big cover area out here so we got better shade.
And then talk about one-on-one training, like the benefit, like who should do one-on-one training?
If you can afford it, do it. And I don't take that lightly, because typically one-on-one training is very expensive, right? You're paying basically for a specific person's time over a period of a day or a half day or whatever the case may be. Sometimes if you can get like a buddy together, you can split a day or something like that. That brings prices down sometimes. But
what works the best? I mean, so I know I've done one-on-one training before, and with two, and it usually works better with two people, because somebody's loading and dealing with their gear, and because you can't sit there and just pound rounds down range all day. There's just not enough.
So I prefer like I do a lot of one-on-ones during the week. I don't do them on the weekends because weekends are for classes or for matches. But one-on-ones during the week are great, but working with 2 people at a time or 3 people is perfect, because when you have 2 people or 3 people, you really get to watch what they're doing. You have time to take a mental break, not even so much of a shooting break, but a mental break from pounding a drill or pounding hammering positional work or whatever the case may be. Gives you time to load mags while you're watching and listening to what the instruction they're receiving. And that really, I found, for me at least, when I've done training, like Tuesday, JJ came out for a half day, and it was 2 of us training with him, and that was a great time to work with him. I got a few nuggets that'll help me with my game. I'm always a student first, trying to get better. And so if you can do one-on-one, great. If you can do 2 with 1, that's even better, because you really still get the same focus as a one-on-one, but it's not so much pressure on you. I also encourage group classes. I've got people that have been regular one-on-one customers of mine for a long time, and I encourage them to come out to a group class, because it's going to be a different learning process. It's going to be a different environment, and you're going to learn different things from watching other people. You may, if you decide that you want one-on-one specific, excellent, because it's a really good time to get reps in and hone a skill rather than getting a new download of fresh information. So I think that's the difference between a group class where you're getting fresh information in, you go home and work on it. One-on-one gives you fresh information, yes, but we are going to change what you are doing and get that locked in.
There's actually a question from Corny Kid Zero. What's the price difference for 2 to 3 people versus like the larger normal classes?
It really depends on the person, or on the person who's training. But for me, I mean, my prices are pretty standard. A 2-day class for a group class over weekends, $500. $250 a day. If you want one-on-one training, it's $500 for a day. That's what my prices are right now. And I've been told by a couple of people that is low, but that's where I'm at right now. So for the time being, that's where the prices are. That may change in the future.
No farewell, it's on sale.
For a group class, and if you want to come out and you got questions about it, shoot me a DM. We'll figure out the details of that.
Very cool.
Does anybody have any questions coming here before I ask some questions I have?
Yeah, we've got one from Mike Stoker. And it wasn't specifically to one of you, but he was wondering how the knee was. So I don't know if that's for Adam.
Me.
Oh, no, it's probably for Joe.
That's me. My knee is doing pretty well. I'm up and moving on it. It's sore. I might have pushed things a little bit too hard last week, but I'm trying to do what the therapist tells me to do. Back in March, so you said I didn't have a skip a beat for COVID. I didn't skip a beat for COVID. Back in March, I tore my ACL. And then back in June at PCC Nationals, I re-injured it because they wouldn't let me have surgery, right? Because COVID, it's a non-essential surgery. But back in June for PCC Nationals, I re-injured it, tore my meniscus, and got surgery the next week. So it's been a 6 weeks today actually, since I had surgery. So we're back up and running. I'm moving around effectively. I'm not supposed to run yet. I'm not supposed to like do twisting and pushing off and stuff, but I did a bunch of stuff, movement stuff with JJ Tuesday. I've been doing a bunch of drills and stuff for content we've been creating with Tactical Hive the last 3 days, and it's not bad. Like, it could be worse.
I'm not a doctor, so I won't give you any advice here. So this is a good transition into one of my topics that I don't think is talked about enough, and it might be a little bit misleading. So in my journey of shooting, what I realized is that there are a lot of guys, and this is maybe a little more USPSA than 3-gun, but there are a lot of guys, and so for the sake of this conversation, let's use the parameters of USPSA, who can be in terrible physical condition and shoot lights out.
Yep.
Like, there are dudes who are just, big dudes who just destroy it, and you're like, and so I never, in the first bunch of years, I didn't put like my physical fitness as a component to that. And what I learned is that there's no way I'm going to shoot well if I am not physically in good shape. Right. And that good shape is a different thing for different people. But I guess I'm on like 2.5, maybe almost 3 years of working out with a trainer. And so during the season, it's sports specific, it's shooting specific. And then in the off season, we do whatever, we just do dumb stuff and lift weights or whatever, get stronger. But some people on this feed probably don't care about. But when we come into the season, and in fact, I just suspended my season training. I'm like the season's pretty much done. So I'm just going to go back to doing more general fitness stuff. But I'm doing all kinds of stuff. We took my trainer out and ran some stages with him. So he's like, oh, I totally get the dynamics of you got to do this. I need to be really strong and then like in a low position, like, get down and shoot a port and get up fast. Yeah. And the other thing where it really helped me, I think, more than being physically strong, doing some of the different activities, was I went on a couple-year spree where I shot really well the first half of the day at a major, right? And then you go to a Bill Duda Area 8 and it's 15 stages and you finish with the headlights, on the setup day, right? And it's a 14-hour day, and so I would shoot great all morning and then it'd tailor off. And some of that for me ends up being I'm just so tired physically that mentally it starts to wreck my mental.
Absolutely.
But
so
there are
one
guys
of the
who
big
are tougher
things,
than me, right? So
so there's two things here, and I want to touch on both. Number one, going back to what you just said, one of the things I touch on, and especially my like that level 2 class, right, is match nutrition. Okay, match nutrition is something a lot of people ignore. They grab a McDonald's breakfast, they go hit the range, and they freaking shoot all day, and then they're trying to figure out why at 1 o'clock in the afternoon they can't see straight. Just a simple tip for that is every single stage, I don't care how short the stage was, how hydrated you feel, every single stage, drink a bottle of water or something and eat something. It could be a handful of nuts, it could be a granola bar, some beef jerky. I love the little fruit cup, little peach, cups with fruit juice. Those are great because it's a little boost of sugar and it's natural and it's good. But eat something and drink something after every single stage. That will keep you even rather than having that. You don't want to have a spike where you're eating a giant meal or hitting an energy drink or something like that. I still will do an energy drink here and there, but I'll sip it slowly. But mainly like
lunch, like sometimes you go to those things and they got some massive barbecue lunch, and I've never eaten one of those and not tanked right after.
Exactly.
So I skip lunch now. I do snack all day.
Yep. You've got to eat something throughout the day. And that's a big thing for me, because if I break that regimen, I will absolutely start noticing not necessarily my shooting even, but my mental processing dies down. So I might have a pickup shot that took me 3 seconds instead of a 2/10 of a second. And it's like, why was that so slow for me to process the fact that I need a pickup shot and then go back and do it? Like, that's just not where I should be. And you start to notice that too when your sugar starts to go down. You get tired, you get dehydrated. The first thing that you lose when you're dehydrated is your vision. And shooting's a visual sport, right? That's all we're doing. We're trying to see faster. So I got to stay hydrated. I got to keep eating all day. And most of the time I don't even feel like eating, especially in the morning stage. Like, I just got here. I just finished breakfast. Why am I eating a granola bar? Well, it's to keep that steady energy throughout the day. And I will tell you that's been a huge difference in my overall performance, because I often saw, like, I'd have a really great stage and I'd have a freaking like shitty stage and have a really like solid, second, third, first place stage win type of stage, and then I'd just tank again. And it's like the roller coaster ride matches are rough. And it's just depressing, because then you do the math and like, if I hadn't screwed that stage up, I would have won. It's like, no, but you still screwed that stage up. The second part on that, where you were talking about the fitness side of things, you're right. You don't have to be in incredible shape to be competitive in this sport. And I've always known that, looking at some of the people who are at the top of the sport, they're not athletes by any stretch of the imagination. However, it does help. Being physically fit is a good thing. The funny thing is, when I tore my ACL back in March, beginning of March, a month later, I went up to North Carolina and I shot a match up there. And it was with some darn good shooters. And I was like, I had no expectations of it. I'm like, I'm just going to walk the entire time, go up there and hang out with some friends. I taught a class while I was up there. And I'm just going to, like, I'll shoot a match. I haven't shot a match in a couple months, since freaking February. And so I'm like, let me go up there, have a good time. And so I go shoot this match, and I literally walked the entire time. And I won. I'm like, how did that happen? And I started, like, I went back and reviewed my video. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I walked everything. And it's just because the manipulations, the transitions, everything else was on point. And I walked everything, and it was okay. And so I've used this knee injury to actually help me smooth out my game a whole lot and blend my positions better, and kind of be more efficient in my movement while taking it easier on my knees. Because I've always relied on, like, I'm fast on my feet, right? Pretty quick on my transition and stuff like that, but I'm inefficient. I haven't been as efficient as I could be in my movement. So this injury, while it sucks horribly, don't get me wrong, I don't recommend it to anybody. It has helped me in that aspect of my game, as far as just like being more efficient in my movement.
So Mark's got questions.
Yeah, we do. So this is a good one. Jesse asks, Joe, being severely left eye dominant, is there an effective exercise to equal it out that you can do away from the gun?
Well, my question would be this. Number one, why does, like, if we're shooting pistols, so let's just take this in the essence of pistols. Pistols, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't teach people to shoot right-eyed if you're left eye dominant. The difference between right eye dominance and left eye dominance: right eye, left eye, right? Literally moving the pistol 3 inches over. I don't change my stance. I don't change my grip. I don't twist my head, cock it over funny. It's literally from here, right eye dominant, left eye dominant. Okay? It's not, I would not stress that. I don't stress that in my classes. If somebody's left eye dominant and they're fight, sometimes you have a issue with both eyes being fairly dominant. And so sometimes they're bringing it to the right eye and their left eye is trying to take over. So they start to twist the gun odd. Pick one and stick with it. If your left eye is severely dominant, I wouldn't say severely is a great word for that. It's just your left eye is dominant. And so if your left eye is dominant, just use your left eye. If you need to put a little tape over your right eye, no big deal. Where it comes into an issue is if you're shooting long guns, rifles, shotguns, stuff like that. If you're left eye dominant, you need to choose whether you're going to correct it to your right eye or shoot left-handed, because you're not going to be able to run an optic effectively with that left eye and your right hand. It's just not going to work.
So maybe the problem is this person's severely right-handed.
What's that?
Maybe the problem's that they're severely right-handed. Like, I couldn't shoot left. Like, I could transition a gun and shoot with my left hand, but I couldn't be competitive that way. Like, I'm going to buckle through it and get, but I and I happen to be right eye dominant, so it makes it a lot easier. I think too, if you're a new shooter, and I've trained a ton. I used to coach the University of Vermont Scholastic Steel Challenge, so I probably taught 100 kids how to shoot fairly well. And so I've taught a lot, and it's always been pistol. So the rifle thing throws me for a loop. I'm assuming there's a rifle thing in here, but what you learn is that somebody who has a strong dominance one way or another, the more you shoot with both eyes open, the more that gap narrows. Yep. And so you could do a fair amount of potential pistol shooting, have that gap narrow, and then choose you're going to switch. You can, it can be done. There are tricks to get it to switch, but I would recommend just go shoot a lot of pistol, both eyes open. And if you're right-handed, you're holding the gun in the right hand, and then just wait to see if you can start to narrow that gap between the dominance. And mine are pretty close. I can close my left eye or my right eye, and my left eye will take over. So I can
same here. Yeah, I can do that where if I close my left eye, or my right eye, I can still run my left eye. It's doable. My right eye is clearly dominant, but the fact of the matter is, like, you don't have to necessarily change anything about your shooting. It's just how do you use your eyes effectively. And when I have somebody who's cross-eye dominant, a lot of people put so much weight into that. It's like, it's not that big of a deal. Just move the gun from here to here and you're good. Instead of, trying to, it gets kind of entertaining to see what happens. But that's my short, long answer to that.
So one thing I wanted to touch on, and I assume most of the folks that are watching are relatively serious shooters. They're not all brand new, but I missed that gun, by the way. That's my old gun. I've been old. I had it for 2 weeks, and Joe's like, I need a Hyperion, and there it went. And it's a prototype.
One of two matches now.
Because it's got that green color on it that we were trying, that kind of came out a little more lime green than we were hoping for.
Yeah, I still want a blue one.
And actually, we're working on the colors. We got a new anodizer. I'm hopeful. This one's pretty awesome.
I had Miles with Tactical Hive came out today, and he has that chromed out chrome and black one, and man, that thing is freaking sexy too. It was real nice.
So flip back to training for a second. The folks watching this are probably competition guys, probably more 3-gun, whatever. But there is a huge, whatever they're saying, 2.5 million new gun owners. And we did the video series, and I think there's just 1 or 2 videos left to pop on that, but you hosted it for us. And so what I'm encouraging, if you're watching this and you know somebody who's got a gun and they have no idea what they're doing, they're a brand new gun owner, get them in front of some training. So my question to Joe is are you doing some of that? Are you doing the first classes?
Yes. Yep. I'm still doing handgun fundamentals from time to time. I'm trying to do a concealed carry, kind of intro to concealed carry class, because that's where a lot of people are turning to, is concealed carry classes. And frankly, most of them are garbage. I see so many. I've actually had a lot of people come through, especially lately, that have taken a concealed carry class and they still didn't know what to do. It's like, to me, that's a travesty and a disservice to people. But so I'm still trying to do a concealed carry class every month or so. But yeah, I was doing online remote training for new gun owners, and that was really successful for a while. And I kind of got out of that because I got real busy with other stuff. And so I need to turn that into a video product. It's about an hour and a half long training that I did, live session like this, answering people's questions and going over what you need to know as a new gun owner. But there's more and more people that are taking on the role of instructor, bringing these new gun owners in too. And you need to be mindful of that. Like, watch who you're taking instruction from.
Well, so and you're being nice about it, but I'm like, I'm a gun. My dad was a gun guy. I've been a gun guy since I was a little kid, and there's a difference between gun guys and shooters, right? And gun guys still like to teach classes and do all that other stuff. And I sat in on a class one time just as like an observer, and they talked about the guns the whole time. I'm like, who gives a shit about the gun? We're trying to learn how to shoot. Like this, it wasn't about the guns. So, and so I'm always very vocal. Go find somebody who's a competitive shooter And then, Joe has the background of law enforcement as well, and probably has some other knowledge and experiences there that really help. But make sure, and I'm people make fun of USPSA or whatever and say it's just a game, and I'm like, listen, I'm in a gunfight, it's all offense, baby. First guy is gonna lose, right? And that's my attitude towards, I just want to be as proficient as I can. And
absolutely.
Right. So
I actually had we did a video today, and I'll link a little teaser to it, because we did about a 10-minute long YouTube video that we're going to be putting up on the Tactical Hive channel. And it was a conversation about the whole idea that, competition shooting will get you killed in the streets. You shouldn't do that. And it builds bad habits and all this. And there is I'm of the belief that if you only train competition and nothing else, it could be detrimental to your self-defense side of things. If you train nothing else, I encourage you to take force-on-force, scenario training, stuff like that. If to build that also reaction to understanding how people operate, how people, human nature, human psyche, stuff like that. That's important. Understanding how people react to getting punched in the face. That's important to know. It's important to know for yourself, okay? Because if you've done nothing but do competition shooting and competition training, and you've never gotten into a fight, when you get into a fight, yes, you'll have the fundamentals of shooting down better than most people, but there's also a whole other situation to this as well that you should absolutely look into. But as far as knowing how to shoot, there's nobody that does it like competition shooters. That's why we get brought into special forces, SWAT teams, all these other units that are doing this at a professional level, and people bring us in to teach them how to shoot better. And I'm fortunate to have the background on both sides, where I've done the law enforcement, the SWAT side, the real life thing, right? That didn't teach me how to shoot at all.
So there's two parts. There's the, hey, I'm in a bad scenario, maybe I need to deploy a firearm, maybe I don't. Like that decision. But once that decision's made, you want to be the best shooter you can be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so I talk to cops about this a lot, because I'm way more likely to use my taser or my spray or baton or anything like that, but before I use my gun. I'm like, absolutely you are. But the day that you have to use your gun is literally the worst day of your life. It is the day that you are fighting for your life, or somebody else's potentially, right? But more likely you're going to be fighting for your life. That's the only time we're allowed to use our gun in defense of our life or another. And so if you are not 100% confident in that ability, then I'm sorry, you need to train more. And I'm not 100% confident in my ability. I'm always trying to push my limits, because there's always more work to do. I can always be faster. I can always be more accurate. There's no I made it in this game.
So if you're watching this, go find a friend who just bought a gun and encourage them to get some training. That's
absolutely.
That's our pitch to the world while we have gun owners and some weird scenarios going on all over the place. So.
Oh yeah, some craziness.
So I have to hawk some product, Joe, if you don't mind.
How about it? What you got?
Where's my camera on this? This is Mark's Apple computer. I'm a fancy guy. This is our new convex trigger. It's got a little, and I'm shooting one in my gun now. I'm not shooting enough to give you guys the absolute green, but I like it a lot in the sense that when I touch in the middle, when I make that initial contact, it lessens my contact with the trigger bow. And whether that's better or not, 100%, I can't tell you, but so far I like it. So those are on the website. Those are new. I think there's a whole bunch of triggers coming up. There's a new website, and when we moved everything over, it didn't translate. So this whole week we've had hammering new content. So we are still selling all the things we were selling before. We're not, and there's stuff that we had in the building. We were just too busy to get on the website. So we're getting that done. Their site plates are on there. So if you want to buy a naked sight from me, or a naked slide from us with the RDS cut, you can buy the site plates, or you can mill your own. If you need the specs on that, we'll send you the CAD file or whatever, so you can cut your own plate. And then STI mag in the new black Teflon deal are going to be up there. And there's a whole bunch of different variants. You can buy a regular STI mag the way it comes from them. We did nothing to it. We just need an STI mag. and maybe we're supposed to call them staccato. The duty and then the duty ready mags have a lockback follower. But oh yeah, I got one with a lock. They're gonna have a lockback follower, R spring that's tougher, and then the better base pad. And then we drill an extra hole in there for the 140 and then the race ready ones, no lockback. Again, they get a hole drilled in them. We used to number that on the silver ones, but on the and again, better base pad. And so those are all probably on the website now. We have a pretty good stock of that stuff coming. And then someone's going to ask this question, so an MBX mag should be on the website too. And so everybody's like, what mag's better? What mag's better? And the issue with the mags is always that the parameters of making these are so difficult that when everything works, whoever's making the mags, it might change over time. The FPI mag to get tuned be as good as the MBX mag come out of the package. But it's always kind of a moving target in that this is a very difficult design to make. That's why the mags have been tough so long. But rest assured, if you buy the mags from us, we stand behind them no matter what brand it is. If you have issues, we'll take them. Sometimes, I mean, if you send out 500, 1,000 mags a month, sometimes it's one mag. A little retreat. So we're super good at that. I don't know if we're mag experts, but we look hard at it. We're good about understanding how different mags work for different guns. So that stuff's all on the website. And then the next 2 weeks, we'll just kind of see everything else leak back in. And we should have a bigger, fuller website. The goal is this time next year you can buy every single part for a gun individually, or you can buy a kit with every single part in it. Just build your own gun. And all the parts
awesome.
Work together. Yeah. We're working hard on that. Am I supposed to? No, they're saying that I don't have to say anything else.
All right.
Joe,
Well,
you're
thanks
still
for having me
dry.
on,
Go
brother.
get some dinner.
Good to have a conversation with you. I got, let me show you this. I got all my stuff still to pack up. I got guns everywhere, and storm's getting closer. So I'm seeing lightning in the reflection of the phones. I'm like, time to probably wrap it up and get on out of here. But I enjoyed chatting, Adam, and we'll have to do this again. And like I said, if anyone's on the stream and has any questions for me or wants to set a class up, wants to come down here for some training, feel free to shoot me a message on any one of my social medias or jump on the website. You can hit me up on there as well. So
Yeah,
always a pleasure.
Joe's great. He's as much fun in person as he is on a phone call like this. So hit Joe up. If Joe's busy, hit one of the other guys that does a sport training and then does training on the backside. Always look for somebody who's doing competitive shooting to be the trainer.
Absolutely.
See you soon, Joe.
All right, guys. Be well. Enjoyed it. I will catch you next time.
See you on the range.